Enter live.
Hi, welcome. My name is T Hazard. I use the she and the her pronouns. Hello. Hello, welcome. This is game number 10, I think, possibly, of the 7th annual Roll Plus Bond anniversary stream. We're raising money for the PCRF. If you like rescuing kids from horrific situations and providing them free medical care, and frankly, if you don't, I'd be concerned, then you need to head over to Siltify to donate to a worthy cause. You know what I'm saying? Right now, one of my favorite princesses with a cursed sword, Ian, is doing a donation is doing a donation match. Natch.
Every donation,
So
I'm throwing a Dalmatian
oh shit,
Damn.
damn, we got dogs going
How
on.
generous.
Cindy, you're not down as possibly not audio, like audible currently for the record.
What?
Unclear. There are only 3 character portraits on the stream.
Oh, yeah, that's because C-Voice isn't in the chat, so it isn't.
Oh, okay.
It's
If that's fine, then I'm not going to worry about it.
yeah. No, that's
Today,
fix that.
noted. Today we are playing Princess with a Cursed Sword, a solo quote-unquote role-playing game by Anna Anthropy. What makes it solo? Well, we're going to be playing 4 games separately / kind of in parallel, including some aspects of Fiasco by Bully Pulpit Games and Jason Morningstar. We'll see how that goes. Joining me today, I am of course VT Hazard, she, her pronouns. Woos confirms that Cindy is audible and that you're just apparently above me. And speaking of Cindy, I'm joined by Cindy today. Say hello, Cindy.
Hello, Cindy.
Nah.
Sorry, had to make the joke. Yeah, hello, I'm Cindy, pronoun she, they. Yeah, find my games on cindy.h.io. That's about it.
Hell yeah, do it. And you can find all my stuff at Philo Hazard everywhere where you have taste. Ian.
I'm Ian. I use he, him pronouns. I'm not plugging anything.
You're not plugging anything. You know, if you like Ian, and Lord knows we do, donate some shit so that he has to pay for it. Neon.
Hello, I'm Neon. I use they, them pronouns. If you don't already know my Tumblr, is I'm not sharing it. I don't have anything to plug. Very excited to play this game.
Hell yeah. So, what are we actually playing today? So, Princess with a Cursed Sword is a classic deck drawery, ready, prompty kind of game. It is about a woman with a cursed sword strapped to her arm, exploring a forlorn, ruined environment. And we are incorporating you'll see that we've got multiple decks, which I'll touch back on in a moment, but then B, we're playing this a couple of times in parallel, evoking dark fairy tales and things like Dark Souls with those kind of limited player interactions and sort of thin points where multiple heroes in parallel can be seen. And also some interaction pieces from Fiasco that we will cross as a bridge when we come to it. Shall we go around and introduce characters? Starting with, I think, Neon.
Hello. Yes. Do you want me to go through all the questions then for my princess?
Um, Start with the stream intro piece, I would say, and then if you want to add any details from you don't have to read the full character sheet, but just whatever's relevant from your character, to describe your character. Doesn't have to be all the ins and outs, but it can if you'd like.
Yeah. My princess is Meyer, and it uses its pronouns. Uh, its gown signifies the path it has carved with its blade. It wears a long white gown which has been torn and stained with said path. Its feet are bare in penance for its deeds. Its sword wants truths, and that sword looks like a large dull blade which has had the end broken off, is changed to its wrist. And yeah, its name is Meyer. And that is my princess.
Nice. I am playing Awful Day, she, her pronouns. She is wearing, she's kind of a very tanned woman with like bleached blonde hair, bouncy and cascady all over her shoulders, tanned skin with kind of freckles visible through it. She is wearing a dress with shoulders like seafoam, you know, where you get that kind of ruffle situation, especially around her shoulders, which kind of falls down into kind of like a 1920s negligee looking situation. She has a rapier handcuffed to one hand by the basket of the rapier. You know what I mean? It's a very thin, kind of artful basket with essentially just like a modern-looking piece of pair of handcuffs clasped to her, although there is no visible seam or indeed locking mechanism. Cindy.
Yes. Um. Wait. Are we doing the stream parameter or not?
We'll do the stream intro in a moment.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm playing Solemnity Riposte. Uses she, her pronouns. She has her feet bare because it's easier to leap and climb. And her sword is like has a normal looking hilt, which then goes into a fleshy blob with a sharp bone blade sticking out of it. I think that's the main things. And she's the third.
Nice. And finally, Ian.
Yeah, I will be playing Vetla Kurt, they, them pronouns for my princess. Their gown is a sort of dark, like velvety thing with a high neck and a scarf. I don't know that this will do the folks watching the stream any good, but I have a picture here for my fellow players. Um, I my feet are bare to better move silently. What my sword wants is to taste fear, and my sword is a long, sharp knife covered in beautiful etching that only shows when it's been blooded, and and it is clasped in a glove that cannot open, so I cannot release it.
Nice. So the way that this game is going to work is that we're going to go around the table, draw a tarot card each on our turn, and kind of there is a prompt to follow along with that. You know, a description of a scene. If that turns out to be challenging, we may need to toss coins, where we've got these darling little spinners. And then at the end of possibly one turn, possibly two, we'll have some intersections between the different princesses to kind of build their characters. Now, you listener, fucking pay attention. You listener, if you want to donate $10, then the next turn will be instead a draw from my Fool's deck. There is a regular tarot deck, but there is also my Fool's deck, which is from things which are not quite a typical tarot deck. And indeed, my players, and indeed me, will have to scramble to kind of narrate scenes based on the contents of that deck instead. If that is tempting to you, and frankly, why wouldn't it be? Then drop me fucking $10 through the Tiltify, and let's see what happens. Right, okay, so going around the table, we're going to read the stream intro part of the prep doc, and then get rolling. 10 or more. You know, don't talk yourself out of a good time, Mary. If you want to donate more than $10, who am I to stop you? Neon, do you want to read the stream intro part of the prep document?
The player principles. Where's there we go. Yep.
Yeah, it's all good.
Once upon a time, in a certain age, at my coming of age ceremony, an uninvited guest gifted a sword, then vanished, laughing, into smoke. I cannot put it down until I find the place it came from. So I have come. I am Meyer, first princess.
Once upon a time in a certain age, at my coming of age ceremony, an uninvited guest gifted a sword, then vanished, laughing in the smoke. I cannot put it down until I find the place it came from, so I've come. I am Awful Day. I am the second princess.
Once upon a time, in a certain age, at my coming of age ceremony, an uninvited guest gifted a sword, then vanished, laughing, into smoke. I cannot put it down until I find the place it came from. So I have come. I'm solemnity reposed, third princess.
Once upon a time, in a certain age, at my coming of age ceremony, an uninvited guest gifted a sword, then vanished, laughing, into smoke. I cannot put it down until I find the place it came from, so I have come. I am Vetla Kurt, fourth princess.
Fantastic. So many princesses. You know, way more than you would expect from a solo game, but I'm sure that won't come up again. I wouldn't worry about it. Neon, do you want to draw the first card?
All right. First card is the Page of Wands. So, based on the rules here, it's wands that indicates something with dark halls, groaning wood, torchlight, yawning pits, glowing sigils, etc., etc. I think I think this is Meyer is walking, I think, through a large expanse in these ruins where it's just this, I think, small piles of sand on a stone floor and this giant room that goes on for what seems like ages. I am holding my sword out in front of me and feeling along the ground to see if I can see anything that any pits in the floor that I would not be able to see because of the sand. Um, and I think there is uh, torchlight, I think, coming from my side in the dark. And I think in here, um, I am looking around and I think this is fear. I think Meyer is normally good at dealing with things it can see, but in here it is difficult to see anything but the dark and the sand under my feet. Um, and in this case, I think the challenge here is that it needs to make sure that it can walk such that it won't get lost and just go into circles in this room. Uh, I think that there's like a dragging of the sword or marks in the sand that it makes in an attempt to make a path. Uh, but the concern here is that it will just keep going in circles and not make it to the end of the room. Whenever I am faced with a challenge, I throw coins. One, if I'm completely out of my depth. Two, if my past has prepared me. Or two, if I give the sword what it wants. I think I think I would normally be out of my depth. But I think I give my sword what it wants. I think I am too scared to not give the sword what it wants. So I think I am telling it a truth about myself. I am telling it that since I was young, I have been afraid of the dark. It was something that I had to hide as a princess because a princess should not have such childish fears. But I cannot help but imagine what might be waiting there. And I give this hard, long hidden truth to the sword as I am walking here. And yeah, I'll throw 2 coins.
If you just tap the little button, they do a little spin. Isn't that
Yeah.
darling? I like these.
I do. And 2 heads. I achieved my goal with frightening prowess. I think here, the sword, I can feel the sword pulling me in a direction, and it's simply such that I need to follow it. I hold it in front of me like a dowsing rod, not bothering to look where I'm going because I trust the sword to lead me in the right direction, and I take a straight route to the exit door. Yeah, I've achieved my goal with frightening prowess.
Love it. Ask not for whom the fool's deck tolls, for the fool's deck tolls for me. Thank you to Anonymous for donating $250. That's very sweet of you. Thank you to Ian for donating $250. As I draw the first card of my fool's deck, sure wish I could remember what I put in this thing. It's Rita. I don't know if you can tell. It is seems to be a business card of some kind for someone called Patrick Bateman. So
God.
yeah, perhaps some sort of merchant, perhaps some sort of broker of some kind. It does say vice president, so perhaps a minor noble. Really, really hard to tell. But it does seem to be a very well produced, clean lines. Um, so my interpretation of this, I think, is so this happened on Awful's birthday. She was gifted this sword and sort of cast out into the ruins to wander. And it is her walking down these like long thoroughfares, like open spaces of carved stone and crumbling pillars, and you can still hear the party in the background. There's still like it is there is still like accordions playing and stuff like that. It's not quite like piano music or whatever. There's a harpsichord that you can hear muffled, sort of flickering lights. And Awful is just muttering under her breath the entire time, like, what sort of shitty gift is this? It's stapled to my fucking arm. My wrist is already getting stiff. Like, kicks the tip of the sword and nearly sends herself sprawling. And I think she is walking for a significant length of time along this sort of long straight path before she realizes that on a parallel path just across from her is a bundled up merchant who is wearing what was once like a suit of some sort, a hood over the top of it, big like almost like saddlebags looking things hanging off of them from all angles, off their loose arms and so on. And I think she takes a step experimentally, the merchant takes a matching step. And I think it is just Awful's eyes like dilating as she recognizes that someone is essentially keeping pace with her here. And I think it is pause, her jaw kind of drops, and she starts running with this kind of clattering merchant-like figure keeping pace with her. Cindy.
Yeah. I come from the princess deck again, right? We don't do 25 for that one donation, I guess.
Has anyone else donated? No, I'd say let's
Okay.
do it a full per donation. Listen, we've only got 17 of
Yeah.
these for the rest of the state.
That's true. You can't go through all of them in the first donation, you know?
Exactly.
Let that be a lesson to you, Anonymous, you know?
You should have donated 25 times.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and this is the Hermit. Ooh. Major Arcana. Shrine in disrepair, ancient rites, an altar, a sacrifice, a tomb, hollow voices, the attention of the gods. Yeah, so I think what's happened is, Solemnity Reposed was at their party. I think she got the sword. I think she was excited about the sword. She was like, ooh, this is cool. And then I think, at some point she noticed, like, why did a guy laugh and disappear? I don't know. And then she tried to put it down and was like, oh, something weird is going on. But also, this party kind of sucks, so this is a great excuse to leave. Um, and yeah, I think, she went out into the, into the lands around, around the castle that she was from. And like, I think she was like, walking around the lands, and all of a sudden she stumbles upon, like, I think, a single, like, an altar, like a singular altar in the middle of nowhere, basically. And she's not sure what it means yet, but I think she comes closer to it. And I think in this moment the sword whispers to her and says, doesn't say a lot. That's hair. And Solemnity Riposte knows what this means. Solemnity, at the moment, has long flowing hair. It's not a thing she ever wanted, but, she's a princess, so, gotta keep it up. And at this moment, she is like, oh yeah, I gotta offer up my hair. So I think, she takes the blade, cuts off her hair. Not all of it. I think she, it's, more of a short hair now instead of the long flowing locks, and leaves them on the altar and goes about her journey. I don't think there's it's not really a challenge here, so yeah.
Ian, I have great news for your next turn.
And what would that news be?
Kind thanks to Hiver with $10 who says, "Let's see Paul Allen's full card." Looks like you're drawing from the second deck there, good buddy.
Okie dokie. Okay, this appears to be an advertisement for a junk car purchasing service. So, okay. I think
You are welcome.
have...
Oh, I think we can use Z and X to rotate these. I can't really remember how you do it. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, hot dickety daffodil.
In any area, it says.
So I think Vetla has been in the these sort of ruins for a time since receiving the sword already. I think they are already Cindy made a Cindy talked about the hair of Solemnity Riposte. I think Vetla's hair was fairly neatly maintained before they came here, but is now below their shoulders and like a little ragged and unkempt. And they are out in the midst of a seeming field, almost like a briar patch of just thorn bushes as far as you can see, except it's rusting metal debris with sharp edges and but not shining, dark and in contrast to the blade that I'm carrying. And I think as I'm making my way through here, trying to pick my way carefully, especially because I'm walking with my bare feet over this sharp metal, the rain starts, and you get the slowly building sound of raindrops striking these pieces of metal, and the sort of plink plunk of that slowly building. And I think there is a challenge here. I think I need to find some sort of shelter in this field of detritus. I don't think I'm giving my sword what it wants here. I think I recognize this challenge, but I'm not afraid of it exactly. And right now, my fear is the only fear I would have to offer it.
Do you
But I
feel
do
prepared
think
for this challenge? You've
I
been out here a
do
while, right?
because yeah, I've been here a while, and Vetla is comes from like a scholarly background, so I think whatever this is the debris of, they know, they have some historical knowledge for the things that these were before, back in the world that could make them and manufacture them and produce so many as to fill this entire expanse. So I think I have 2 flips here. And we're doing heads as success, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, there's a success. I think what Vetla ends up finding is a large metal, almost like it would be it is shaped like a coffin or a sarcophagus, but for someone twice the size of a person, of any person that Vetla has ever known. It is still unsettling to try and rest or even sleep in something that is so clearly made to hold a body with no other room.
Nice. So, we have made it through 1 turn. Do we want to go for 2 before doing the fiasco piece, or should we do them every turn? What do you think?
I think I'd say 2 at least for this first round to get our characters a little more established before we start interacting.
I like that.
That's just me.
Neon, I have great news. Ari with an $100 donation says nothing, but it does mean that you have to draw from my Fool's deck.
Oh, well, appreciate your donation. Let us see what we
I'm
draw.
also going to put my junk car's card away.
A library card. For the sake of anyone not watching the stream, this is a library card from the show Arthur.
You know, I believe it makes having fun rather easy to achieve.
Hmm. This is, well, we see Meyer stepping on a large staircase and into a building that is creaking and groaning with the weight of many, many books. It is, I think, an old styled library. It is full of the different books, scrolls, stone tablets, and Meyer looks very out of place in its dirty gown and large sword, which carves gouges in the wood as it walks down the halls. I think this is a resting place for it. I think it is there. It is not acknowledging the knowledge that is there. It was not built for such things. It simply goes and finds a soft reclining place and sits quietly in front of a window against which the rain falls and closes its eyes, its sword resting beside it. Yeah, don't think there's a challenge there. I think we just get a quiet moment with Meyer.
Nice. I think we've had another one. Princess Zelda tells us. Hang on, I think I can do a voice. Link, found this little fool on my doorstep. He keeps saying he's a fairy and he's making everyone uncomfortable, so I give him to you. Hands you Tingle. Thank you. I appreciate this Tingle in this trying time. Sorry, do you want the library card or would you like me to put this in the discard?
I would like to have a library card. Those are very
Alright.
useful, I'm told.
Yeah, that's a good point. Alright. Drawing from my fool's deck. Bood. This is a wooden postcard. It appears to be a Victorian seascape with the words Bude, B-U-D-E, in large friendly letters at the bottom of the page. So I think this is awful. The ruins and the dilapidated halls open out almost entirely, almost unintentionally, onto the sea. I think perhaps even, she tries to step out to the edge and there is a low crumble and just an entire section of masonry comes away with her on it. What was once, formerly a balcony or something like that, a set of stairs that opens out into the sea. Just the entire stonework that was supporting it, the natural stone that was supporting it, has been worn away by the ocean. And so, with some, I think it is, well, at least there's some sea air out here, and then it is the rumble, and it is the clatter, and it is awful, shaking as she tries to stay aloft on this moving stonework as it cascades down towards this grey, angry ocean. And I think there's a little bit of sea foam, but it's kind of intermingling with light rain, even up here. I think this is a challenge. What if she is completely out of her depth? Okay. And that is a heads just about. With just one head, she achieves her goal, but it is tenuous or costly. I think it is. Does she end up in the water? No, but I think it is close. I think there is a tumble. She goes over the sort of ornate stone balustrade that she was leaning against briefly before the whole thing gave way, and I think for a moment she is hanging off on the other end of it, essentially being bathed in the sea foam and in the rising waves. It's filmed extremely closely. It is closely framing her face and her arms as she tries to clasp onto the balustrade from the other side, legs kicking wildly in the distance. Her hair soaked through with seawater almost immediately. Sort of natural brownie ready hair, blondie brownie ready hair, turning black in the seawater until finally she does manage to drag herself over the other side. Her chest heaving, kind of splayed out like a starfish on this piece of masonry, which is fallen 2 stories down, with this screaming princess atop it. Bood. I'm gonna double check Tiltify again, but Cindy, I think it's yours, and I think you get a regular card.
Yeah. I think it was also the last regular card. Anyway. Ooh. Not a major arcana. Yay, justice. Yeah, I think, Solemnity, I think kind of satisfied with herself after cutting off her own hair. Is trotting out these lands. Trying to seek more guidance about where she might possibly need to go. And I think, she's walking around, and I think in the nothingness, she. I think she comes across a big, what do they call those big grave things that people fit in,
Mausoleums.
mausoleum. Yeah, she comes across one of those. Yeah. I think she comes across one of those, and I think she steps closer. I think puts a hand on a stone door, and I think it opens up, and she looks in there, and there's the staircase leading down. Not really sure where, so I think she's guess I'm have to head here, and I think she descends down this tomb. I'm gonna throw a coin, which is only one because she's completely out of her depth. Damn, a lot of hats so far. And yeah, I think, she makes her way through these tombs. I think, I think with all the courage she went in here, I think once she's in there, there's a lot more. She she does become more fearful. It's dark. She doesn't really know where she's heading. There's like weird noises going around, and I think at some point something, some sort of beast. She isn't really sure. It's too dark. Jumps on her. I think bites her arm. But I think she's able to like smash it away and like flee. And after a while, I think she comes out in some sort of cave network where there is like light shining down again. She's able to regain, and she's able to like treat her wounds at the very least before she goes again.
At least take a moment to breathe.
Yeah.
Nice. Vatla.
Yeah, I think I'm drawing an actual tarot card this time.
Yeah, a regular card this time.
The Eight of Swords. With swords, white stone quartz, a sudden noise, shadows and ghosts, precarious heights, menacing statues, and blades. So I think this is I've moved on into a exactly what it says, a white stone court of gleaming marble stretching out. It has a bit of height to it. There are steps down to small depressions, steps back up to small rises, but fairly flat, and it's those sort of long, shallow steps when there are. But it is an unsettling space to move through because it is a forest of statuary of these figures, armored all similarly but not the same, armed similarly but not the same. No two of these statues seem to match, and yet they fill this space. It's like you sometimes even having to like turn sideways to slide through. They're so tightly clustered. Um, and each of them has had the face of the statue seemingly gouged out by some sort of um, I think it's by something that has left behind scorch and burn marks here. Like the faces have been burned off of these statues. Um, and Vetla slowly and carefully picks their way through, ready for I think expecting each time expecting the next statue to be the one that suddenly moves and turns its blade on them. But none do. There is not a challenge here. It is just a matter of making the way through this forest of these forms.
Love it. Okay, let's try and inject a little fiasco and see how it feels. What I think we're gonna do is we can establish 2 to 4 scenes as we like. And you can either choose to establish a scene or to resolve a scene at any point during the scene with any of the other princesses. You one of the other players can choose to give you a token. The white or black poker cues down at the bottom of the page to govern or sort of demonstrate how the scene is going to resolve if you were the ones to establish. Otherwise, you'll have a token yourself due to that. And yeah, in my mind, this is Dark Souls campfires. This is the smooth places between different journeys. This is thin spaces. This is people huddled around campfires together. I don't think these journeys are taking place at the same time. Does anyone want to go first?
I would. I think this is open scene to whoever wants to join, but I think in a large open a small, I think, open room that that is open to the stars. It is unknown if this is actually the real stars or it's a projection by some sort of by something. And I am sitting by a fire I have made. I have caught and killed some lizard-like thing that has been in these ruins, and I am cooking it, and someone has come upon my campsite, I think. Would anyone like to join?
Yeah, I think Solemnity Repost, walks up to your campfire. I think, without really saying much, sits down. I think, yeah, I don't think like close to you, but like, beside you a bit, Think, she looks a bit dejected as she sits down.
I think Meyer looks you over, um, doesn't say anything for a while. I think it is partially, it has been a long time since it has spoke, and it is unsure how its voice will sound when it does. Um, but eventually clears its throat. Asks you, it's almost ready. Do you want some?
Um, yeah, sure. Thank you.
And I think there's a clattering sound as it gets up and the chains clink together as it reaches in a pocket and pulls out a small knife to carve you a piece. It does not have any cutlery or plates to give you, it just hands you a large chunk of cooked meat.
Yeah, I think Solemnity like tries to like I think out of habit like tries to grab it with like the hand that has a sword in it. But then like realizes the sword is there, and then um I think just like skewers it with her sword, so she has like a big like a piece of meat on top of her sword and like begins to eat it like that.
I think Myers eyes narrow a bit in an intimation of perhaps the start of a smile, but does not complete that gesture and um, just asks, "So, are you new?"
Yes, left the castle not that long ago.
Good luck. And
What about you?
sits down next to you. I have been here for long enough that I do not remember the time. I have had my hair grow long and cut it uh, 5 times now. It's hard to tell when you cannot always see the sky.
Yeah,
Have you been keeping track? If you
I
want to keep track, you will have to start soon.
in a few days, I guess. I don't
I
know.
think just like looks at the fire.
Do you know where you're heading? She just says. Hmm. Oh, wait. Okay.
Put it where it belongs. Hello?
Uh, Discord cut out for me a bit there. I think for the stream as well. So, um,
You're good.
yeah. So, what was the first thing I said?
I'd finished what I was saying.
Okay.
Meyer just asked you what you think you'll find once you have found where it belongs.
I don't know. Something else. I think just looks at the fire again, you know? Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you want to suggest an end to the scene or resolve the scene?
Oh, I already did. I gave you a little prize there.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I missed that. Yeah, I think
I gave a white token, which is a positive ending to a scene. I think reflected that.
Yeah, I think just did not see that. I think solemnity when solemnity wakes, there is a I think like in a rough cloth there is a package full of prepared meat for you.
hmm,
And nothing else. I think Meyer has left in the night. What you presume to be the night. The stars are still out.
yeah.
I think it seems appropriate to do a scene with Vetler in that case.
Yeah.
I think it is. I'm establishing it is a mirror parallel of Maya's earlier scene. It is awful completely having failed to light a fire. She is sat in front of a small like pyramid of wood that she has tried to make different sticks and stuff like that. Some, what is clearly a chair leg that she's snapped over her knee. She is soaked through. She is shivering. Her hair is still dark with moisture and wet, and she is looking around like a feral animal.
I think I think there's some similarity in our appearance then, not in the wet. I think to suggest that we are in somehow two different places that just happen to intersect here. I am
Mm.
dry, but the animalistic aspect of it, I think I'm stalking up behind you with my knife drawn. But as I draw closer, I see or sense your insubstantialness to me, your intangibility, that you are not a physical presence here, that we are somehow crossing over, but it is as ghosts or as spirits or as figments or something like that. And I think I relax slightly, um, straightening up and just clear my throat.
Awful start. Like scurries around, falls through what was like, there's enough dust and ash to imply that it was burning for at least a short amount of time, and enough smoke on the like stone ceiling above her to imply that it basically sputtered out almost as quickly as it begun. I think eyes wild, she does sort of rise up into a shaky sort of fencer's pose, the rapier up before her. What do you want?
You're wet and you've made a mess.
like the corners of her mouth wrinkle, and she looks around. I tried to start a fire.
Not very well, it would seem. And I think, like, steps towards you, um, not like explicitly menacingly, but also not making any pretense of appearing unmenacing either, and still with this long knife in my hand. Um, and just like calmly starts taking steps to actually stepping towards the fire, but or the remnants of what you tried to set, but towards you as well.
Yeah, there is no disarming motion to it. And I think it is awful, like skittering back with a panicked impression of a fencer's poise, and sort of, darting the tip of her sword about the place. What do you want?
The same thing as you, somewhere warm to rest for at least a few hours. And then I crouch down and start gathering back up the pieces of kindling and whatnot that you scattered in your initial reaction to my presence.
It's the wood. The wood must be bad or dry or too wet. It's. I was going to wait until the rain stopped and then get more.
If you wait until the rain stops, it'll you need the fire to keep you dry. And then I think
What is there to keep? And she does like a twirl, like it with just the like cockiest little smile on her face, despite the fact that she is currently in the midst of freezing to death. Um, like she is visibly still dripping.
yeah. Stop that, you'll only make it worse. And then I think I pick up like a piece of stone from the ground and start trying to strike my blade on the stone to cast sparks into the fire here. Try and get it lit.
Does someone want to resolve this, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, whose scene is it, by the way?
It was my scene. I think you can give a token to either person in the scene, I would say.
Okay. I think I'm gonna give a negative token to Ian here, to Felpa.
Great. Then I think what this looks like is trying to do this, and after a minute and no luck, letting out I like going back to the sort of animalisticness that we both had at the start of this scene of like a growl, and then like throwing the stone into the carefully piled up kindling, scattering it worse than you did scattering it worse than you did earlier.
I think when you look up, Awful has gone. I think the despite her airs, I think the sun smash, the shattering of the carefully piled bonfire, was enough to have her scattering. And I think it is her, like 3 buildings away, chest heaving. She is a rabbit heart pressed back against a wall, trying to keep herself in the dark, still dripping.
Yeah. And I think similarly, the like with you gone, when I realize you're gone, the air of menace that Villa has been affecting like falls off like a cloak, and they are just tired and slumped to the floor.
Because I'm conscious about the number of scenes that we're playing, do we want to give each person involved in the scene a token? Potentially gives us some more, mechanics when it comes to aftermath stuff. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah.
Does seem reasonable.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
I'll take the time to give you I think also a negative token. If that makes
Yeah, that
sense.
seems reasonable.
Uh,
I'll give Solemnity a positive token, I think.
yeah, she got food.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't think it has to be, oh, everyone for every scene gets a, you
Mhm.
don't have to match. Back to regular gameplay, and thank you to Anonymous for the $10 donation. We appreciate you. That is back to you, Neil,
All right.
from my Fool's deck.
Let us see what the fools have in store. Trainer,
Yes.
imposter, Professor Oak. I
Damn, what
think
a shifty character.
I think for this one, this is um Meyer is on, I think, a tiled floor uh, that feels cold to its feet. And it is standing in front of an ornate desk. Meyer is very tall and imposing, but this desk is even more so, as a large mechanical construct about 10 feet tall looks at it. It seems to be sculpted after um, an old teacher of it. I think it is sculpted after the man who had taught it how to fight, uh, and it is looking at her with an air of imperiousness and derision. I think it is asking her, or it is asking it to perform a maneuver it has done many times and is looking at it with that sort of disappointment that makes it angry. I think it continues to perform this. I think as it came into the room, it was instructed that in order to pass, it would have to satisfy someone important to it. And it just keeps making these moves over and over again. And I think in this case, my princess is faced with a challenge. It is not necessarily making the moves and doing this. It is the challenge of repeating this over and over again with the face of someone it has disappointed staring back at it. I think I will throw one coin because it is completely out of its depth. Practicing is not novel, but dealing with a situation like this without reacting in anger, but instead with cool precision, is not something that is in its wheelhouse. And I will flip the coin. That is a heads. With just one head, it achieves its goal that is tenuous or costly. I think in this case, it is both of those things. I think it takes a long time before it performs the maneuver with this large, hulking sword that it did not train with. And it takes every ounce of strength for it to keep on trying. But eventually, it makes the moves it needed and the construct falls dead. It is as if the strings on it have been cut and it collapses onto the desk. And Meyer is simply breathing heavily in front of that desk. And I think puts down the sword and leans against the desk and simply breathes for a long time. And it takes a lot of strength for it to get up and keep moving and not just sit there. Um, yeah, I think because of this, its movements are a lot more sluggish and tired than what we have seen before. The chains rattle on the tile floor. And that is a challenge.
I was going to
I will
say, are you keeping that one? Oh,
Yes, I will
whoopsie
put it
daisy.
on top of the other one. Oh, never mind.
I love that I hit the recall button. My bad.
There we go. Goes in the
Well,
discard. Did it go on top of the pile, or do we need to take it out again?
you know, if we draw something we've drawn before, it's a like fucking 3 in 17 chance. It's probably fine.
Okay.
I will just check the donation tracker. But I think I'm drawing a regular card. We are up to 3315. Our goal currently is $3,500. And reminder that Ian is copying donations for at least another 95. Well, for another $95, I should say. So get donating for the next 3 hours.
Make your $10 $20.
Yeah, that's a good point. Doubling donations. You know what I'm saying? Because I do. Wheel of Fortune. This is Major Arcana again. Major Arcana being a shrine in disrepair, ancient rites, an altar, a sacrifice, a tomb, hollow voices, or the attention of the gods. Oh, got it. Easy. So, Awful is still cold. It is a cold, like, scarce morning. It is pale grey sky, pale grey ground beneath her, rising cressellations, like castle walls, right? Big grey clouds dotting the sky. And I think she finds what is clearly like a testament to a battle or something like that. It is almost like a roadside shrine, despite just being in the midst of this built up area, right? But there are two knight statues with their heads lopped off, guarding either side of the shrine. There is a small overhang, like a bus stop or something like that. And then there is a worn stone plaque to a god that she doesn't recognize. A like old red like carpet looking kind of shrug over the flat surface of the altar, and like some battered brass cups, some candle stubs, some dry like desert flowers. And I think Awful is stood there, still shivering softly every few moments for a second. And then she shoves everything to the ground, takes the, like, worn red, like, patchy, there are gaps where moths have eaten away at it. Table throw, essentially, takes it as a cloak and wraps it around herself tightly. Pins it in such a way with a hairpin that she has a little bit of a hood to herself, and continues to walk. Her feet kind of cringing at the stone cold floor beneath her, and overhead the clouds rumble. Cindy, it's yours.
Chariot. Hey, not a major arcana.
A lot of major arcana. Are there quite a
Yeah.
lot of those? I don't really. I am the one transgender woman who's never written a tarot game.
I think there are decent, but it's like, I think it's as much as the other decks roughly, but yeah. Should be. Yeah. Hmm. I think, Solemnity, having woken up from the campfire, I think, proceeds towards the caves and I think finds an opening, gets out into the open air again. And I think, yeah, it's basically what she walks out into is just a very shallow lake or sea, probably lake. I don't know. No, the water is salty, actually. Well, a lake can be salty. But anyway, a shallow lake, shallow salty lake she walks into. And I think she just is walking. I think, the water gets up to like her ankles, Um and I think she's just walking, not knowing what to do, where to go. And I think she just, I don't know if she hears this or just, the thought pops into her mind. But she gets the question, "Why are you here? Why are you here?" And I think, she answers like, "I need to find the place for the sword." And I think it responds with, "Why here?" And I think this is the attention of the gods. You're looking down upon her, wondering what the fuck she's doing. And I think, Calamity is trying to like justify herself here. And I think she's once again trying to do something where she is completely out of her depth. So I'm gonna go for that. That's again. So with one head you choose a goal, but it's tenuous or costly. And I think, she just ends up pleading with the gods for a while. Like, it's not like they're like demanding her to do anything. They're just asking her a question, but sometimes that's very difficult to answer. And I think in this case it's very difficult to answer for Calamity. And I think she just, keeps arguing with them. And I think, she keeps walking, not knowing where she's going. And I think she just ends up upon an island. And I don't think she succeeded in answering the gods, but their attention has faded, you know? Um, yeah, that's that.
Nice. And it's an Ian turn.
Alrighty. Let's scoot the chariot over and another arcana. High Priestess. Or another major arcana, I should say. I think I think this is I think we see Vetla in a they enter like a stone archway that one would expect from like a very like capital C classical design temple to some god. Um, they're holding. I think that initially relaxes them, but as they stride through the dark hall, it's as though they are walking back in in the time of this place, as the this classical construction becomes increasingly more less clean, more ancient, until it is at one end of it a I'm like almost just like a dirt mound with handprints in blood on it. I'm thinking of an even more extreme version of things like where you have, I'm a medieval Christian church built on the site of and including like the remnants of an old pagan church built on that site, built on the ruins of an old Roman house on that site, and you can see the continuity of the construction and the location there. And on this mound with these handprints, looming over it is our roots. This has somehow become underground. It wasn't. The entrance was not, but it has become underground. And there are these roots that come down and loom over the mound, and they give. It's not just that they form like a face or a body, but they do draw together in a way that suggests intentional form and attention upon the mound and who stands before it. And Vetla stands before it, but on the mound itself is a bound figure, eyes open, and Vetla can feel that they are expected to complete this sacrifice for this temple. But I think they have committed violence in their time here, but I think needing to do that to what is essentially a helpless person is new to them. Is not something they've had to do. So I do think this is a challenge for them. I think this is. She's definitely out of her depth. She hasn't prepared for this. But if she gave her blade what it wanted here. But I think it's more interesting if she draws away from that. If they drew away from that, rather. Sorry, reading the rules, and they're all written with she, her. They do, despite their willingness to lean into being menacing with Awful Day that we saw earlier, I think confronted in this moment, they shrink back from that. So I will only be throwing one coin. So that is a success with a heads, but the goal is tenuous or costly. I think I think not giving the sword what it wants is that Vetla makes this quick. And I think the cost is, as the blood flows along the knife, we see the sort of curvilinear etchings that only appear on the blade when it is blooded. And I think those the lines of them are reflected in the lines of the roots of the roots that reach down above this, and that blood trickles onto their hand and wrist and up their arm, and it continues to move in those paths and mark them further as part of this and bind them further to their blade that they are trying to rid themselves of. We going to do scenes together again, or do a second round again?
Good question. We are an hour and 20 in now. I kind of like the idea of having 4 scenes together, in which case let's do another round around. We can always pick up the pace as we go into the second half. That could be fun.
That's good.
Okay.
In which case it's back round to Neil.
All right. I think I would like to establish a scene. I think.
Oh, as in just doing the because we've
Oh.
only done one round since the last
Oh,
few
I
episodes,
see.
right?
Sorry. My
It's all good.
apologies. I did not get the timing right. Okay. I will draw a card from the deck.
I mean, just correct me if I'm wrong here. That's right? This is
Yeah.
essentially our fourth round.
I think so.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
All right. So we have got the 7 of
I believe these are
coins.
supposed to be coins.
Yes. Tattered banners, an old library, grinding gears, a strange artifact, cloaked thieves, caged bird, or guarded treasure. I think this is a caged bird. I think we see um, we see Meyer. I think this is like we don't see how Meyer got here, but Meyer is looking at a squat stone pedestal on which an ornate wooden bird cage sits, and inside is a small bird, and it is singing sweetly to it. The bird has the sort of song that it only remembers from early childhood. It is entranced by the song, and it goes to pick up the cage. I think it takes the cage with it. I think it goes for a while through, I think these are like twisting halls as it carries the cage and the bird. And I think this takes a great deal of effort to carry both the sword, which is almost as large as it, and the cage also. And it goes for a while like that. We don't see exactly how long, but we see it grow less tired from earlier trials and slowly regain strength, but we see it stop. I think this is in a room that has a naturally bright foliage along wooden floors. And it sits the cage down and goes and sighs as it knows it cannot keep carrying the cage around with it. And it goes and cuts the cage open and looks over the bird. I think trying to etch what it looks like into its memory, as it hasn't seen a bird of this type since it was very young or heard it, and does not want to forget seeing this little piece of its home. And the bird, I think, flies away as it looks on. I think we don't see where the bird goes. I think there's a crack in the room, in one of the walls, that light is peeking through, but we don't see where the bird goes. And it sighs, looks at the cage, and moves on. And that's the scene.
Nice. Give until to find another refresh in case. I mean, snap up on, but no, I think we're Gucci. So I'm going to draw a regular card. Ah, it's my favorite tarot card. Me flying in a hot air balloon into power lines. Is that bad? So Major Arcana remain, a shrine in disrepair, ancient rites, an altar, a sacrifice, a tomb, hollow voices, the attention of the gods. I mean, I think there's an obvious one here, which is Awful keeps finding herself back down by the water. Like by the waterfront or in areas which are flooded or areas which are, have openings down to these pools of cold black water. Even in the light, when the sky is above, they just turn a kind of dull gray color. So she walks with some trepidation kind of around these wherever possible, until eventually she comes to a long rectangular room with these deep square ponds. And I think it is hollow voices ringing out. I think it is murmurings in her own voice. I think it is a time a couple of weeks ago where she chastised a servant. I think it is a time where she begged for a certain gift. You know, maybe she wanted a particular horse that the merchant was unwilling to sell. I think it is her own words with Vetla earlier, parroted back at her all in her own voice. And I think when she eventually, bucks up the courage to do so, she looks down into the water, and there are just hers after hers after hers tessellating, and like fractal patterns of her hands lunging out, grasping the edge of the cloak, or the stolen altar cloth that she is wearing. I think she screams aloud, and I do think this is a roll. And I think she remains colossally unprepared for all of this shit. And that is a tails on my only roll. If you throw no heads, the princess falters and barely escapes with her life. I don't just want to pull her into the water again, as tempting as that may be. But I do think it is. They snatch for her and grasp the edge of her cloak. The hat pin that was, or the hairpin that was keeping it around her neck, is too well made. So she kind of, is in the midst of screaming, running, grasp on the edge of the cloak, and then she is pulled down to the ground. I don't think she ends up in the water, but I think she essentially catches herself on the corner, knocks all the wind out of herself as she hits the stone flags. I think scuffs her knees, scuffs her elbows, trying to push back up, swinging the sword behind her, kind of unseeing, sort of flailing blindly, until eventually, minutes later, this takes a long time. She finally manages to scurry out into like a corridor or something like that, and just sits down heavily, breathing hard again. The ends of the sort of stolen cloak that she wears, sort of glazed with salt water and dark with wet, tears brimming at the corners of her eyes. It was a fun game. Ooh, I think we've just had another cheeky donation, if you can imagine that. I mean, it's not that hard of a thing to imagine, so it would be a challenge if you had. But what the fuck? Okay, this is very confusing to me. True Blay, which is is a True Blue even, which is an oddly familiar name for me. Can't imagine where that's come from. Kitty Face, $10. Great news, Cindy. It looks like you're drawing from my Fool's deck.
See?
Are you the only one who has it yet?
Yeah.
I have bad
Ooh.
news. So you must go
Damn.
directly to jail. Do not pass go, and unfortunately, you're not allowed to collect $200 either.
Damn it. I wanted those $200.
I don't know.
You would have been required to donate them anyway, so.
Oh, God.
No, that's true. But on the plus side, Ian would have had to have donated $400. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, they would have been matched at least, you know? Yeah. Yeah, I think, Solemnity, I think, yeah, reaches the island. I think, still kind of relieved that the gods finally, left her alone. And then I think not much later realizes that they in fact haven't left her alone. As I think a big minotaur charges at her, and I think throws a net on her. And I think, she's like panting, struggling, but, not getting out of there. And I think, the Minotaur drags her along, still within the net, to, I think, a crumbled prison. I think, crumbling prison, I should say. It's not completely crumbled. Otherwise, it would probably not be a very good prison anymore. But yeah, I think, she gets thrown thrown into a prison, gates shut behind her. I think she tries to like talk to the Minotaur, ask what's going on, but Minotaur doesn't respond. She's not really sure if the Minotaur is capable of that or not. Irregardless, but yeah, does not respond to her. So yeah, she ends up in a prison. And I think, I think she spends a while there. I think, yeah, as soon as she gets there, she like tries to get out, tries to climb out of like her cell and stuff, but there isn't really anything there. So I think she starts making a plan. Um, and starts digging her way out of there. But let's see how that goes. um, yeah, I think also she starts digging it, and I think it's taking a long while. It's like I think she's spending like at least a month on this, and I think as she's going, she's realizing this is taking way too long. I'm never gonna do this, so I think she asks the sword for help. But to do that, she needs to give the sword what it wants, which is to see beauty twisted. Um, and I think in this case, you know, I think Slimity looks down upon like her gown, and I think it is a very like regal gown. It's it signifies her house unchecked extravagance. Um, and I think the sword wants her to like basically rip up this gown to see it like to see its beauty transformed into like raggedness, into like into like a former glory. I mean, obviously it's already dirty and stuff. She's been out here for a while, but yeah. Yeah, that does give her uh 2 coins, so let's flip those. Tails, yay. I Yeah, what I think happens is that I think she gets out of the cell. She does succeed at that, but then she realizes that the cell is in fact in the middle of a giant labyrinth. She doesn't know where to go, and as she's traveling here, she hears some shuffling around again, and I think pretty soon she realizes that the Minotaur is after her. And that's where this one ends.
Okay. I will draw from the tarot deck, I believe. What it looks like to me.
Uh-huh.
The Knight of Swords. Think think I think I'm making my way along a long gallery. Like there's a wall on one side, and the other side is arching open spaces like windows, looking down onto some sort of courtyard. But the camera doesn't see the courtyard. The hall is broad, and I'm clearly uncomfortable moving down it. It's open. There's nowhere to hide, there's nowhere to go. It's just moving directly in one direction. And my fears, I think, become manifest as I hear the sound of a horse, presumably some sort of hoofed animal, galloping, the hoofs on stone, um, approaching from a very far distance, but echoing down this hall and drawing closer and closer. But there is no challenge here because even as the sounds draw nearer and nearer and nearer, nothing ever truly appears. Instead, Vetla just gets increasingly panicked at this. I think breaking into a sprint, but that makes no difference to the approach. And then finally, I think when they believe that this creature is upon them, they like throw themselves to the ground, hands over their head. Nothing comes past, and then the hoofbeats draw off into the distance ahead of them. I think it is a long time before they pick themselves back up and proceed onward.
Oh, yeah. Does anyone want to establish or resolve a scene?
I would like to establish a scene.
Go for it.
I think I would like to establish a scene with Betla. I think uh, the two of them are in that courtyard depicted in the on the screen here. It's a fountain. I think they're both standing there, and Ian, when Meyer offers to give you something in exchange um, for them to cut its hair, what do you ask for? Or do you refuse?
I don't refuse. I think what I ask for is I I ask you to place your hand opposite mine on the hilt of my blade. That if you didn't know, though maybe you recognize it, I think the hilts of our blades look very similar. You wouldn't know that I cannot release it because it is simply that the glove that I wear will not move to let me do so. But I'm curious what would happen if a new hand were placed on it, if that might free me. I don't tell you that part, of course.
Like Meyer moves to stand beside you and maneuvers its hand to be beside yours. You can feel the heat of Meyer's hand. It is large and calloused.
I think that's sort of the mirror or the inverse of mine. My hand is small and you wouldn't know it from in the glove, but is soft, the hands of someone who was a scholar before all this started. But don't think I don't think that anything happens. I think you place your hand on it, and I'm curious if you can feel the familiarity between the blades.
I think I can. It is like welcoming an old friend who I have not seen in quite some time. I run my finger over the grip and feel it for a moment, almost wanting to say something to the blade. I look at you and go, is this enough?
It will have to be, I'm afraid.
I,
I don't
I
explain
think
what I mean.
it smiles and goes, the blade is crafted to be with a princess and to reflect them.
I think
I like
looks
the look
at
of your blade, but it's not mine.
if your blade reflects you, what does it mean that yours is? And eyes going down to it, broken.
It means that We have committed great sins. Need that should be reflected in how others see us.
And I think goes to take my offhand, the one not holding the blade, into your hair. Does that include this? Is that a directive?
No,
I
it is
do keep
simply
my.
a desire. I have seen many of you change them, and it is hard to maneuver my own dull blade such that I can get a good cut. And I think sits in front of you, looking out at the fountain, expectantly.
I think I draw your hair into my fist and pull it back so that the very keen edge of my blade can cut through it. It's nothing. This is not something that I have any particular aptitude for. It's workmanlike. It's functional. It is not aesthetic. Um, you wanted your hair shorter, and so it is.
Its hair is thick and has strands of silver going throughout it. And it lays at both our feet. I think Meyer lets out a hum of satisfaction at feeling the weight come off of its head.
Um, I think still standing a little bit behind you, so out of your sight, I touch my own hair. I seem to be considering something. Um, it's definitely longer than we last saw Vetla when we last saw Vetla with Awful, for instance. But the there's a shallow shaking of my head, as if whatever I was considering I reject. Um, do you think the water's safe?
This water, or
Nod
I think
as I come to sit beside you.
this place. I have drunk from many pools here. I do not think this place is such that it desires that we are maimed such that we cannot continue. And I think
Ah,
looks into the water. It does not look undrinkable, but. And I think shrugs.
um, I think I look down at the sort of like wire-like tracery that is now like onto my hand and wrist and starting up the sleeve of my gown, um, and say there are many ways to be maimed. And then I think Vetla pushes themselves off the edge the of the pool and slips into the water with it over their head. And I would love if someone could resolve this so that I know how that turns out. Okay.
Would someone also like to resolve this scene for Meyer? Okay.
Cindy, do you want to resolve the one for Maya?
Sure.
All right. I think
Yeah.
I think that reflects Meyer sits there in the quiet where Vetla has left and I think looks in the space, looks at the hair and sighs. It had been hoping for more conversation. It had had a taste recently and it wants more. But it simply sits there, trailing fingers into the water, not wanting to follow after. Sighs, gets up, and walks the other way. It cannot help but feel the feeling of the hilt under its touch. It has touched another princess's blade before, and there is echoes of want in it.
I think for Vetla, it's that they slip down into the pool, and despite it looking shallow, there does not appear to be any bottom. And they fall, and then they sink further and further into the water and the darkness until they are overcome and everything is black.
I have a suggestion for a scene with solemnity, if you'd like one.
Sure, go for it.
Direct follow on from the scene where there is something galloping behind you. Hooves on stone flagstones, and I think just as you are like rushing barefoot on stone flags, Awful lunges out from what is like a closet, or like was could have been a shop on this like thoroughfare at some point, or could have been a what am I thinking of? Like a monk's cell, you know what I mean? Yeah, I think it's like a monk's cell. It is not a huge space, but she reaches out, grabs you by the you don't have lapels, I assume, but that kind of placement, and pulls you inside, pulls the door shut so that you are currently like plunged into not quite darkness, but gloom, but for the gaps in the doorway, and stands sort of breathing heavily facing you.
What the fuck? And she just like looks up at you, you know?
Yes. Yes, clearly. What the fuck is that thing?
It's the Minotaur. I think, she's
What
trying
do
to
you
like
mean it's a fucking minotaur? Those are a myth. Those aren't real.
it fucking threw a net on me and put me in a fucking prison.
Are you a criminal?
No. There's like she hesitates a bit as she's saying that, you know?
I think she sits down on the, there is a small like inbuilt bunk in this tiny space. So it just ran up on you and caught you like a fox on a hunt.
Yeah. It's I don't know. Couldn't like the gods asked me a question and I couldn't answer it, and I thought they left me alone after that, but yes, they did that.
Why would why would the gods send someone with a net? That
I don't
feels
know.
crude.
I don't know, what are they supposed to do, you know?
I'm beginning to believe haunt you with visions of your own fate.
I haven't
For
done that to
example,
me.
just plucking that out of the air.
I think, Solemnity is just like, haven't done that to me yet. You know?
Slow nod as she really reconsiders explaining any of what she was just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Breath. Um, I'm awful.
Why? I think she doesn't understand that's your name.
Her sort of eyes widen and her lips kind of open and close. Never mind. You're like me?
Oh. I think at this point, only at this point notices the sword, you know?
She kind of like raises her left arm where it is clasped in place, kind of wiggles it helpfully.
Yeah. Like that. I'm Solemnity, by the way.
That's nice. So you've been for how long?
I don't know, like bit over a month at this point, I guess.
A fucking month?
Yeah,
We did no one send a search party or
I don't know, they might have.
people care about you, right?
It, I mean, sort of, yeah. I mean, I'm like a
What awful kind
princess,
of
so
goddamned place have I been found in? Wait, hang on. You're a princess as well.
yeah. You too?
Well, yeah, hence saying as well, yes. She kind of like swats the end of the rapier on the end of the bunk.
Uh-huh.
That little feral fucking. No, no, clearly not. So you've been running away from a minotaur for a month.
No, that's more recently. Well, it captured me a month ago, but then like I was in prison for like a long while, and then I got out, and then it started chasing me.
Is you being here going to bring that thing back?
Uh,
Still refuses to call it a minotaur.
I don't know, it might. How did you get here?
I was gifted a sword and told to come here.
Here.
Yes, here specifically. I was gifted a sword on my birthday and told to walk out into the ruins and lock myself in a monastic cell. Yes, correct, Solemnity.
I Yeah, okay, sure. I think, it's like so okay, why did she grab me?
Because pulls her knees up. I haven't spoken to anyone in days. Or, um, I haven't spoken to anyone in days.
Yeah. Been a while for me as well. It, it, I don't know what to do.
I've never met anyone with a fucking sword welded to their arm.
Well, I mean, I met the other one.
No, I mean, yes, no, I mean outside of here.
I mean,
My family are wealthy, they're powerful, I've met a lot of people.
hmm, yeah, it's weird. I don't know. Feels like I don't know. The world I
Is
walked into is not the one I remember at all.
yes. Do you think this is somewhere we can leave?
I mean, must be right. No, why build a
Why?
labyrinth without an exit?
Why free you from a labyrinth just to chase you down but with a fucking minotaur again? She bunny ears the word minotaur this time.
Well, I mean, I don't think they planned for me escaping the cell.
Hmm.
Maybe they did. I don't
Uh,
know.
Does someone want to resolve this scene?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's probably fair.
Okay. Good for me,
I
bad for you.
think the sound of slow, heavy clopping outside as Awful's eyes just widen, kind of hisses out. Did they intend for you to get caught again? Is this you?
No. Okay. Let's get out of here. And I think she like grabs her hand and opens the door, like preparing to run out of there, you know? Like
I think it is Awful screaming as she tries to power walk. Both of them, literally, the Minotaur is 10 feet away from them in this moment.
uh-huh.
And I mean, there's a really obvious way that this scene ends, I think. Is it just the Awful... I mean, I think there's some wibbly time shit happening here. So is it just that you have a nice tight grip, you have it around Awful's arm, you have it around Awful's wrist, and then it is just gone, and Awful lands in a heap, and then the Minotaur is, atop her.
Yeah.
Awful's no good, very bad day. I'm so glad that you picked up on me saying I'm awful as like a why. Thank you. Right. I think this is around the halfway mark. This seems like a sensible time to take a break if that sounds good to everyone else.
Yeah.
Neat. Y'all in the audience, we will be back in 10 minutes. Does that seem reasonable to everyone?
I think that sounds good.
Does yes.
Nice. We'll be back in 10 minutes then. In the meantime, please keep donating away. I've still got, I don't know, however many are left in my Fool's deck. Perhaps 11 or 12 still that have been unseen. So donate away $10 and subject us to something slightly more suspect. Thanks, y'all. See you shortly.
Now recording. Now recording. Now recording. Now recording. Now recording.
and welcome back. This remains the Roll Plus Bond 7th anniversary stream, raising money for the Palestine Children's Relief Fund. A reminder that the PCRF has existed since 1992. It is responsible for bringing injured and sick children free medical care that they couldn't get locally. It has helped over 2,000 sick and injured children and sponsored hundreds of volunteer medical teams from all over the world. So yeah, donate. You're doing it for a good cause, and you're doing it for my fool's deck, which truly, what else is there to want? While you were away, we had an $100 donation from Anonymous. Thank you, Anonymous. And Ian also completed his $500 match. So thank you, Ian. That was very, very kind of you. We are playing
pulled that off in
Princess.
half the time I allotted for it.
Oh shit! Did we? Oh, yes.
Yeah, I
of
had it,
course.
I had it, I
we're
had it
halfway
running through the
again.
whole game, our whole session, and we're only halfway through.
Hell yeah. We are playing Princess with a Cursed Sword 4 times in a row, / 4 times in parallel, including pieces of Fiasco by Jason Morningstar and Bully Pulpit Press. And we are getting right back into it with a draw from the Fool's deck for Neon.
Right. Let's see.
The Fool's deck. That's the regular deck.
Fools. Yes.
Decidedly non-foolish deck.
The foolish
We've already
drawing
seen
from
that
the
one.
non-foolish deck. Okay.
There we go.
This
Okay.
is a fun one. These are what look like paint samples. There's a few of these. Yeah, and I think this is a room that is it's large. We see large curtains of fabric draping a room, and on those, I think it's large canvas, and on those bits of canvas are splashes of color. It looks like there has been a lot of different people here. I am unsure if it has been princesses specifically or just people passing through. But there are markings where people have left art of different kinds. There are footprints in paint. There are beautifully drawn scenes, murals, as I am walking past. And I think I am walking for quite a while before Meyer goes and looks around and sighs, knowing that the challenge in this room is to create something here. And as Meyer, I think, has been dragging this large sword behind it, it has been carving a line into the canvas behind it, and it seems to be repairing itself as it goes, and lifts that up, I think, hoists it into something, a sling on its back to carry the sword, trying to get as much movement in its hands as possible as it reaches out for a set of, I think there's brushes just lying on the ground and paints. And I think this is going to be a challenge. I think this challenge is very much something it is out of its depth for. It has not done something like this. I think it has known people who have. I think that the man that taught it swordsmanship was also an accomplished painter. But I think that does not prepare Meyer for this challenge, but instead make it bitter at the challenge, as it thinks of what beautiful art it has seen and knows it is not going to do this with that mastery. And I think this is the challenge here is if Meyer will be able to create something that the room deems worthy of this. And that is, I think, the first Tails complete fail we have had here. If I throw no heads, the princess falters and barely escapes with its life. I think this is the paint, and I think Meyer gets halfway through a very simple painting of a crumbling castle wall. And I think as it is completing this, it gets frustrated, pulls that sword out from the sling, and slashes through the canvas. And as it does, it reveals blackness that seems to seep out of the gash in the canvas and consumes the nearby art. And as Meyer is running away, it nips at its heels and begins to consume the entire room behind it. I think Meyer runs and runs, knowing that that it cannot stand up to something that is purely blackness. And so it runs until it cannot run anymore and is breathing heavily as it lays down. I think at the edge of this room, I think it is sitting on like a wooden floor that in front of a large archway, and it sees the room, which now, instead of these big murals and paintings, it is simply half consumed by blackness. And I think it starts to slump against the doorway and simply stares as this happens. And that's my turn.
That was a great scene. Well done. Thank you to Anonymous for their $10 donation. Fool's Deck. I agree. You agree. Putting that in the Fool's discard is fine. It's another one of my famous Fool's Deck cards. This is a birthday card. It is by an artist called Quentin Blake. It is just a little woman reclining on a couch with a parent and some cake and whatnot. I think this is awful, finally getting dragged forward before someone sitting luxuriously back on a chaise longue, as is often the case in like Souls-like style games and things like that. This is someone who towers over her, who, if was a boss, would loom over her many times higher. Is sort of reclining lazily across a chaise longue, is picking at grapes off of like an actual like grapevine in a pot. Awful is left on her knees, like not bloodied but like scratched up, with the Minotaur stood behind her with like its huge hand on her tiny tanned shoulder. And I think it is just it is the same questions, with Awful trying to stammer out responses and getting kind of smirked at and chuckled over, until she's finally sort of let loose, which is just, well, which one are you then? And how many times have you done this? And how many times do you think you've done this? And so where do you think you need to plant that? And it alternates between Awful saying, her own name, where she's from, begging to be paid to be let out of this place, requesting, praying for the sword to be unbolted from her wrist, and that she's still fairly certain it's her first time, that she's never done this before and hopes to never do so again. Sort of alternating back and forth between the stages of grief, snapping and yelling and shouting. And I think eventually she pushes to her feet before the Minotaur can respond, kicks over the grapevine sort of pot, which is a big sort of ornate Greek pot with just a grapevine rising out of it. And I think just keeps running forward, leaps forward out of a window, and yeah, we leave Awful in midair, her arms flailing, as the woman who is presumably some sort of minor goddess, some sort of major goddess who has no such interest in such things, sort of, continues to eat the remaining grape in her mouth. So give like a little pleasant, like, at the taste. Cindy, I think it's on to you.
Yeah. Cat. Points. Cat of pass. Very kind of good. Yeah, I think, salinity, I think, having just escaped from like the Minotaur, having run out of like the labyrinth, I think, having left Awful behind. I think, just like a pang of guilt still in her that she kept running, She didn't go back to like try to save like Awful. I think, comes out of like the labyrinth and I think, exits out into like a giant library. And, this is like an old abandoned library, like cobwebs everywhere, type of situation. I think these are like, books stacked up like, as far as you can see, basically, like giant bookshelves, that sort of thing. And I think it's just walking to it. And I think at some point she stops, looks at the shelf besides her. I think just like grabs a book.
Do we think this is the same library that we saw Meyer in earlier?
What if it's the classic Souls-like thing of Maya was in like a lower level of the same library, and we get the like above camera shot of like the area that Maya was in, along with like a conspicuous ladder that you could kick down or something if you wanted.
Yeah. But yeah, Solemnity doesn't see any of that. She's just looking at the book. And I think it's like a young adult novel or something. It's not. I don't think it's that significant in terms of like, this is not like a literary work or this is not a like, you know, or like, something like it's like a lot of like, I don't know, philosophy or something like that. It's just like a young adult book. And I think she's like just kind of tired. I think she just sits down for a bit and reads it. Um, and I think, as she's reading it, I think she is trying to glean from the book what she's supposed to do. But I don't know if the book supports that or not. Um, and I don't know. I think she's once again completely out of her depth here. Or no. She throws no hats. The princess falters and barely escapes with her life. Which is a weird thing to happen when you're reading a book. But
Books haunted, cock's gun.
books haunted. And
You just can't stop reading.
yeah, I think it's like I think, she kind of just becomes obsessed with the book, Like I think she's been through so much shit and like stuff that she's like this book is so much nicer than all of that. And I think there is like this almost magical pull like pulling her into this book, She's just sitting there like reading for days and days and like I think slowly withering away while she's like reading this book. And I think, you know, I think only at the last second, I think what happens is that like a tiny like a tiny troll creature walks up to her and starts throwing stones at her. Which I think, is finally the thing that keeps her away, that gets her away from this book. And and she yells at the creature, waves a sword at it, stands up, and only then realizes what sort of trance she was pulled in.
What if you stop reading and it's very clearly a different time of year or something?
Oh yeah, that's good.
Like the leaves have started to fall, or there's a little bit of snow everywhere, or just
Yeah.
something to be like, how long was I reading?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Ian, I have great news. We have
Oh,
a
what news do you
$200.
have?
Well, I'll give you one clue, considering I've only ever given you one kind of news in this stream so far. Anonymous for $200 says Cindy's rightful monopoly money. Abolish prisons, free Palestine. Damn right. Fucking
Thank you.
F's in chat. That might not be what I'm. Thumbs ups in chat. Draw from my fool's deck.
Fool's deck it is.
We've had
Neon, would
Arthur
you like the
already.
library card back?
Oh yeah, of course. We gotta give Neon the
Yes,
library
please.
card. There we go.
Especially given it showed up more than once.
Balance is restored.
This is from some other card game. I'm not sure what.
This is a Magic the Gathering Doctor Who card.
Doctor Who's
lives.
not in Magic the Gathering. You can't lie to me, Fee. That would be stupid.
Actually, I can lie to you constantly. But in this case, I am being honest.
Yeah. Okay. I think. Oh, okay. Yeah. I think we see Vetla just lying on the ground on a small rise in the middle of a swamp that has moved that has sprung up over the ruins of a village or something like that. We're doing Dark Souls and we haven't had a swamp town yet, so we got to make sure we hit that note too. And I think Vetla, they are motionless. They are lying face down. They are sopping wet. They are still as death. And then suddenly, with a painful gasp, they push themselves up off of the ground suddenly, as though their life was suddenly restored to them somehow. They look around frantically. It's dark, but there's the twinkles of firelight off in the distance, suggesting the possibility of other people, or at the very least, perhaps warmth and light. But here it is dark, and they are cold, and it takes them a very long time to push themselves up, first to their knees, and then to their feet. It isn't until they're standing that they look down and see that the wire lines that have extended from their blade have turned, perhaps from the water they passed through for an unknown amount of time. They're metal, so surely it's rust red and not blood red, but it's hard to tell. And they no longer simply wrap around their hand and wrist and forearm. They now run through their flesh and come out the other side. With a sigh and a slumping of the shoulders, they begin to drag themselves across this swamp to towards what they can best tell is the nearest one of these flickering torches. They thought perhaps, I think at some point when they were drowning in the water, that it would at least all be over, but clearly it is not.
No, Fionn, surely just try and put one specifically good card in the deck. It'll be great. Oh, whatever. Neon, I think it's back to you.
Yes. All right. I will draw from the princess's deck this time. The Fool. This is a fun one. So yeah, Major Arcana, which is a shrine in disrepair, ancient rites, an altar, a sacrifice, a tomb, hollow voices, or the attention of the gods. I think this is. I think this is. Meyer is. I think we see here, in the picture of the for the stream, the background picture, we see a large, what looks like a landscape and a clock tower overlooking said landscape, and I think here Meyer stands atop a tower, and looking out is just a large landscape, and Meyer cannot help but feel that it is real, even though it knows it most certainly is not, because it will not be free until it places the sword where it belongs. But it cannot help but look out and wish it could just be there and leave and feel the warmth of the sun, the grass beneath its feet out there. And I think as it does this, it hears a voice coming from the sword. I think multiple voices, and they are pleading with Meyer to give something in this from this tower to the landscape itself. They are pleading for it to give something here because it is a place with meaning, and it feels like the ruins, the place that Meyer is in, is showing Meyer what it can have as long as it gives the sword what it wants. And Meyer sits for a while looking at this landscape and runs a finger along the blade and tells the blade that the truth is that it does not know what it wants when it leaves. It wants the warmth of the sun on its skin. It wants to walk amongst the trees. It wants to be out there. It wants to talk to people, but it does not know what it actually wants besides being there. And upon receiving that truth, Meyer feels the blade hum under its grasp and filled with warmth as it pulls Meyer down the staircase away from the edge of the tower and forward. And that is my scene.
Awesome, thank you. I was just about to draw from the fucking full stack again, I tell you what. The Three of Swords. That's a cool card. I like that. And swords are Whitestone Quartz, a sudden noise, shadows and ghosts, precarious heights, menacing statues, or blades. So we cut to Awful, who is still in midair. I think she lunged forward out of the window to just try and make distance between her and the Minotaur. Tries to land on a parapet and misses it, and then is just in free fall. I think her eyes flutter open again, and she is. There is essentially like an old Norman style statue, a knight with a big like kite shield in one hand, kind of across their chest, and the a large like sword sort of point downward in its other free hand. There is a small triangle of three of these huge knights facing one another, and Awful comes to with kind of a cringe of pain and of ache as she is she finds herself like basically draped between one of these knights' two arms. Kind of groans and tries to kind of wiggle lever herself down to the ground below, which is part climb, part kind of crawl, really, trying to get herself out of a very uncomfortable situation. There is a little, like, stubby, scrappy bare tree in the middle of this tiny courtyard, and yeah, again, it is awful back to being the feral little creature, just legs kicking out for purchase, trying to free herself. Um, So my sword wants secrets. But I don't think Awful has the presence of mind to be offering them right now. And so I think it is I don't think she's prepared. I don't think she was expecting this. So I think it is just trying to scurry out and yeah, that's a tails. Um which I think is just she drops down and she makes the landing badly. And she is already beaten and bruised from the fall, and this additional drop, the screen goes white, and then she is limping as she stalks out into one of the doorways around the space, kind of quietly sobbing. Cindy, it's back to you. Regular deck.
Coins. Okay. Yeah. I think, you know, Salinity having like gotten up in the library, I think, kind of just starts wandering again. Um, and you know, walking through these halls, there he suddenly hears like he hears a bird song. I think she follows it, and I think there arrives at like a giant cage with like a giant bird in it. Um, the bird is singing. I think notices Salinity, and starts singing to her. Um, and I think it's it's yeah, beautiful song. Like it is like one of the nicer things he's experienced since he got out of here. I mean, obviously the help from Meyer and Awful also part of that, but this is he spent a lot of time alone and companionship with this bird. Nice. I think she just like listens for a while, and then I think her sword speaks to her. What the sword wants is to see beauty, is to see beauty twisted. And well, this bird song sure is beautiful. Um, and I think Salinity like so far has been like pretty on board with the sword actually. But I think at this point like starts realizing like, oh no, wait, this is kind of fucked up, man. um, and before she also knew it was kind of fucked up, but she was kind of into it in an edgy way, and now she's like, This is a bit too far for me, actually. And I think she has to try and resist the call from the sword. Um, no. I don't think her past has prepared her for this because she is used to not listening to people, I think she's quite a rebellious princess. And, you know, defying orders is what she does. So, let's see how this goes. Oh no. Uh, so yeah, if you throw no heads, the princess falters and barely escapes with her life. So I think, Solemnity tries to resist it. Tries so hard. But she can't. Like the voice of the blade is somehow too commanding of her, is somehow too has too much power over her. And I think, she steps into the cage and I think she's prepares to strike this beautiful bird. And I think the bird looks down upon her suddenly with anger in its face. Doesn't know what she's about to do. And I think this bird just starts like attacking her, clawing her, like crashing across her with its giant talons. And I think Solemnity gets fucked up in her. She gets absolutely fucked up by this giant bird. And I think only barely is able to like pull herself out of the cage to keep herself like from being injured too hard. I think, probably like passes out just outside of it. I think the bird's still screeching at her as she's waking up, and yeah, I think, struggles up and like falls away from the cage. And that's where this scene ends.
Okay. The Two of Swords. I think one of the prompts for that is precarious heights. I think we see Vetla on like a narrow uh, 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 narrow cliff face, like up going along the side of a mountain. Um, the uh, it's I think barely wide enough for like her single foot to be there. I think with her bare feet, she's even maybe gripping the edge with her toes. Um, but they have the blade held up and ready to use because their attention is drawn down below them, where there is a lower than them on the cliff is a very like I think pretty uh, uh, scraggly looking, like some sort of something like a mountain goat, some sort of animal that is native to here or was, but this place has probably changed and it is not easy for animals to live here any longer, though a few still cling on. And Vetla is very hungry, but not just hungry. I think they're still wet and cold from the water. They were there so long. I think it soaked. It feels like it's soaked into their bones. Um, and there's meat, yes, but there's a hide. There's something to warm myself with as well. And I think I am trying to position myself on this cliff to drop down onto this animal. It is not easy. It is not. I try to approach from below. It would be able to escape up. It can move here more readily than I can. But the but coming up this high is hard, is frightening. The slightest slip, and I could go tumbling down, and even more than that could mean the end of me. I now know that I might have to just live on with the consequences of what that fall would be. That it could do me great damage, but not end me, which feels worse. So I am going. This is a challenge. I am not prepared for this. However, I am giving my sword my own fear here, which is what my sword wants, is fear. So I will throw 2. And that's 2 tails. So I think this is. I think I leap, but I when I push off, I make a sound, and it's just enough to give the goat a warning, and it springs off. And so it's not even that I slip and fall, it's I dive down the mountainside, rolling and tumbling, striking rocks that are coming out, kicking up this cloud of. I'm imagining this as almost like maybe it's dormant now, but this was like a volcanic mountain. So these great big clouds of dust from igneous rock here, um, and I think I eventually come to a halt only when I stab my blade into the side of the mountain and pull myself to a stop, wrenching my arm, and I hang there, covered in this dust and ash and soot, clearly bruised and bloodied all over, and still hungry and still cold. I think that brings us around to scenes together.
I believe so.
I'd agree.
Um, if for mine, I'd like to ask the group if anyone would be interested in creating a scene for Meyer to be in. The only thing I ask is that I get a scene with Awful, because I have not gotten a scene with Awful.
I feel like if Awful is going to be in the scene, I probably just shouldn't therefore be the one to frame it. Not to abdicate responsibility or anything.
um,
What's the
I
last
think
we saw of Meyer again?
Meyer had just I believe it was when Meyer went through that room with all the paints and everything.
Okay, that
And
was
was
the
just
beginning of
sitting
last turn.
staring.
Okay. And Awful last fell out of, well, jumped out of a window and smacked against some statues.
I think I can. Unless you have something here, Cindy, I think I can suggest something.
Go for it.
I think this is. I'm looking at this windmill here. I think maybe Meyer, there's this windmill. I think half of its blades are in tatters, but there is still a cold and sharp wind that it's like the one structure out on a barren plain. and I think you've gone in to try and shelter. There's also, there's dry grain here that you could theoretically eat, but it would be unpleasant to say the least. But it's this place that was, you came here looking for shelter, and I think awful was already here.
I think as I walk in, I think somehow maybe you make a sound, or I see your outline, your silhouette in the dark, and I let out a small sound of surprise.
I think Awful is lying heavily on one side when she hears the intake of breath. I think she like starts and very slowly, very trepidantly rolls over to face you. Sort of
You hear,
regards you with eyes, with like dull eyes. She's been crying.
yeah, I think uh Meyer, like you hear the rattling of chains as Meyer very cautiously goes to sit opposite you, uh, back to the wall, and looks you over and goes, I think you're the one I haven't met yet.
I don't. She very slowly pushes up on her elbows. I don't remember meeting you.
That is good. And I think it is regarding you in I think it's the light is coming in from outside and there's no other source of light. And it's just looking you over in that dim light, um, and asks, can I see your blade?
I've hardly been dueling. Fine. Her left arm is closest to you anyway, but I think she puts more of her weight on her right arm, like up on her elbows, and offers her left arm. There is a, like an elegant thin metal pair of handcuffs, which weave from around her wrist. There is no visible seam. Um, a thin chain to the basket of the rapier, which is currently kind of hanging off of her arm.
I think there's a grasping of your arm. It is a firm grip, but gentle at the
I think
same
she
time.
very nearly yelps.
And maneuvers the blade such that it can see the hilt itself and is looking for something and eventually spots um, a small bit of writing that is just an etching um, onto that hilt itself that is just a signature that is Meyer's name. Uh, Looks at it and nods, and then
What?
releases your arm. Thank you.
Her arm kind of goes slack and she gives a hiss of discomfort. What were you looking for?
I carved. I told myself that if I managed to place the blade where it belongs, I would try to carve a sign into the handle because this, and I think Meyer takes the blade that it has been holding by its side and shows you an unmarked hilt that resembles your own. They're the same blade. I wanted proof.
Her jaw kind of slacks. Slow nod.
I don't know what happens after.
No, I don't.
Reassurances.
Hand very shakily goes up to kind of like brush your hair out of your eyes. I don't recognize your face, or do you have a name?
Meyer, you're
Awful.
the first who was asked. And I think
Mm.
gives a perfunctory, practiced but rusty bow in your direction.
She gives a shaky little laugh in response. I'd stand and curtsy, but I took a
That
tumble out of
I'm
a window.
I may be a princess, but the kingdom I come from does not recognize me as royalty anymore, as they should. So I would not deserve such courtesies regardless. Goes to sit on the other side of the windmill.
Local woman hypocritically. Well, it costs nothing to be nice. Least nice woman in the entire world.
I think this is a positive token. I think the two of them spend. I think Meyer is reluctant to call it a night, but certainly enough
Spend some
time
time
that Meyer
regardless.
feels renewed enough to continue into the bitter winds.
Hmm.
And Meyer is happy to have the company.
Do you all agree that that's a positive scene?
Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah.
I'll take a positive token in that. Awful's first. Mostly because we're doing the fiasco ending at the end of this, and I don't want her to have too much of an easy time. Do we have a solemnity in Vetla scene?
Hmm. You have an idea for one, Ian, or
I don't have a specific thing off the top of my head. If someone else has something, I can come up with something though. If no one else has a particular idea,
So, what
but
was
I'm
the
happy to have
last that
someone
we
else establish.
saw? What was the
I,
last that we saw of Vetla and Solemnity?
Solemnity had just gotten fucked up by a bird and is like crawling away from the scene.
And Vetla was dangling from a cliffside by an arm stabbed into the into a mountain.
I have a
I mean, I think that's
proposal for. Oh,
okay.
sorry. Go ahead.
Interesting. I also have a proposal. No, you go first. Let's see what we got.
My proposal isn't so much to do with the last scenes, but I think it's fun to have a change in tone. I think it is a dance between the two of you.
Hmm.
I think
Is it
My
it's
like
proposal was sorry, please.
specific first. I think it's like specific to the area you're in. I think this is the thing to do in that particular. You feel compelled to.
It's a ballroom or a dancing hall, or at least the rooms of it.
I like the ruins. It's open to the sky.
Hmm.
Hmm.
My
Ian.
pitch was Solemnity getting dropped in by a bird.
And we can do both. Both things can be true.
This is true.
Yeah, how are you feeling, Cindy?
Yeah, that works for me. Yeah.
Are
Who
there
do
are
you?
there other
Level 2.
dancers?
Hmm.
I think there's the I think there are many other dancers, but they all have a sort of mechanical tone to them. I think they're in the way they dance. They look real. They feel real when you brush up against them, but the way they move is practiced. It is mechanical. They are not truly dancing, but following the paths they have laid out for them.
Yeah, so I guess Solemnity gets dropped off by the bird in this like dance room. Um,
Yeah. I think I'm already standing at the edge. I think at this point, I think I've had to use like torn off like a strip of the bottom hem of my gown to fashion a sling for the arm that is holding my blade. Um, uh, s- uh, uh, and I'm watching these dancers and and I'm still like covered in dirt and ash, and I think still the the cuts have dried, but the bruises have blossomed more, type of a thing. I looking in very bad shape. Um, I'm imagining this as almost like a hand dance.
okay. Um, yeah, it's like a hmm, who asks who for the dance? I guess like
Oh, I think when you land, I approach. Um, there's a tentativeness to it, an awkwardness.
mhm.
Uh, you're real. You're not like the. Are you? You're not
But
fixed.
yeah, I mean, kind of cursed. Shoots a sword.
I think you see the blade is out. You can see the blade I'm holding as well, and like again the wires that seem to extend out from it into my arm. Um,
Mhm.
they won't let you pass if you don't complete the dance. I've been. You need a partner though. I've been waiting, and I think absently like
Mhm.
runs with their good hand, their fingers through their hair, trying to mark time by how much it has grown.
Mhm.
It's been a time.
Uh, nobody else has come around here.
No,
Uh, uh,
I
um.
haven't.
Okay. I think Solemnity like extends her hand to Petla and is just like, "Shall we then?"
I think goes to meet you, um, and says, "Was never much for these before. I studied. I was obligated, but." And trails off.
I think Solemnity is just like, "We all were." Um, and I think like just because of the dynamic here, I think kind of like takes the lead because she's
Mhm.
like, Fenla's clearly not taking it, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um, and like, I think this is. I think she's done this like a few times. She's been to a few dances. I think it's very much for her like, okay, let's do this again. It's very much like going through the motions.
Which I think is the exact opposite of what it is for Vetla. I think they are stumbling at this. I suspect were they in better shape. I mean, as far as like not being battered and beaten and bruised and starving, they might be doing better than they are now. Um, but I think in particular their recent experiences have also shaken their confidence in these things as well, like even in their own sense of like dexterity and grace.
Mhm. Yeah, I think for Solemnity, like she's still like scratched up and bruised from like the fight, But like, I think in this moment has like this weird ease to what she's doing, right? Like, it's like, she's going through the motions. That for some reason, this isn't taking her any effort, even though she was like barely standing up like a few minutes ago, right?
Right.
And I think, hmm,
I think my eyes go to the how did you I want to get your exact phrasing right because I like it. The fleshy blob and sharp bone of your blade, and
mhm.
I say, is that yours? Referring to the seeming organic pieces.
I don't think it was. It was there when I got it, but I don't know. The more time passes, the more it feels like it's part of me. And I think like,
Look,
yeah.
no. You finish.
Yeah, and I think like she opens her hand from like the sword, and I think for a second like use her other hand to like kind of like pull the sword apart a bit, and you see like a bone extend from her hand into the sword.
Mm-hmm. I think I look, my eyes go like I watch that and my eyes go meaningfully down to the wires going through my flesh from my blade. Say, I know exactly what you mean, and there's a sort of slightly rueful humor to that.
Mhm.
What do you think happens when we finish the dance?
You said they'd let us through.
Yes, I
Well,
assumed.
hopefully that happens. And we'll see from there. The others I've met have not stayed around for that long.
I, how do you tell who's real and who is, and again, like kind of just eyes going out over these sort of construct forms.
Well, the real ones tend to talk. I don't know. Does it matter?
I guess not.
I
I think no, please.
yeah. I think she's like the last one I met. She You were running away. I left her behind. I don't know if she's like doesn't finish the sentence.
Hmm. That I don't think this place wants us to stay together for long. Any of us. Or the swords don't.
Yeah. There. I don't know.
And I think we complete the dance
Mhm.
and the I, I I don't know if Solemnity realized this. Vetla certainly didn't. That all of the other figures had like the dance had their paths had drawn them to like the periphery of this space, and the floor starts to open up into this like yawning pit with a spiral staircase leading deep down into it.
Mhm.
And I will take this as a positive scene because I had a interaction with one of the other princesses that did not end with one of us leaving the scene suddenly and unexpectedly and kind of on not great terms. Um, and the way forward is open.
Yeah. Hmm. I want to take another. I want to be positive though, because come on.
If you want a negative, I got you covered.
Yeah, sure.
The bird comes back.
You're just wrong, and it's only one princess that gets to leave after the dance is concluded.
No, I push you in.
Oh
Oh
god.
shit.
Yeah, I think there's just like, I think like Solemnity is just kind of astonished as you do. It, just falls back. And just like doesn't know what happened, why, or whatever, but like I don't know.
Yeah, and I think, and I look at you falling and look at the blade and hope that it is feeling your fear, that you have fear for it to feel, and that might help it heal the arm that it is attached to. Because right now I can't use this sword very much.
Yeah, I think Solemnity's sword is also very satisfied by this. The beauty twisted, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no sound as you fall.
Mhm.
Then I start trudging down the staircase after you.
Okay, we were talking about this in tax chat, but just out of curiosity, what do you all think? One round of like essentially, let's do a last round of cards, see if we find somewhere to set our swords or not, and then go into like fiasco style aftermath stuff.
Works for me.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Neat. Then it's back to you, Neon.
All right, I will draw from the princess's deck. This
Last chance
is
for any fool's deck, folks. Sorry, please.
this is the 9 of coins. Coins again are tattered banners, an old library, grinding gears, a strange artifact, cloaked thieves, a caged bird, or guarded treasure. In this case, I think it is a strange. I think it is a grand. I think actually it is. It is to go with the theme of the ruined ballroom. I think this is a large, almost cathedral space, and at the altar where there would be a lectern and all that, there is an altar with a pool of water inside of it. And I think when Meyer goes up and looks into the pool, Meyer can see reflected back its own face, much younger, looking back at it with much less pain in its eyes and weariness. And as it strikes the water with a hand and dismisses that image, it gets the sense that it can keep looking at whatever it wants, so long as it stays here gazing into that bowl of water. And I think here the challenge is that it wants to stay here looking into the pool and not leave. I think this is a challenge in which Meyer is I think the past has prepared Meyer for this. I think one of the things it had been trained in before it chose to do the things it did and was rejected by the people that had trained it was that it was taught to avoid these sorts of traps and to wield a sword with the clarity of mind of a knight, princess. And that's 2 coins. That is a tails and 1 heads. So, with a heads, she achieves her goal, but it's tenuous or costly. And I think Meyer spends a long time gazing into this bowl and seeing the trees in its hometown, the sight of its bed from its childhood, uh, the sight of a beautiful woman it once knew and had danced with, um, the sight of its first kiss, and it keeps looking at these things until its hair grows so long it's in the bowl, and it's only the tugging of the sword and the need to swing it through the altar that, with the crash of the bowl breaking, pulls Meyer out of the spell. And Meyer is left staring out at the room, bent and tired and hungry and weak, but knows it must continue because this room will try and keep it if it can. And so it slowly, one step after another, chains rattling as it goes, walks out a door on the side. And that's that card.
Are we doing the returning the sword piece now, or should we do a loop around the table and then do it?
That's what I assumed we were doing, but if you want to place the swords, I can.
Okay. Let's do it at the end. That sounds good. We have 2 more Fool's Deck cards. So I have great news, Cindy. But first and foremost, it's my last proper turn, I think. I will find the playing cards to IO, which was apparently a challenge. It's Rover! He's here! My little man. This is
What
an
if
Animal
Rover was a
Crossing
Dark Souls
key card.
NPC?
Yes. I mean... So what is this? So this is... I think Awful is walking with a crutch under one arm. I think she still is limping. I think she has the sword out on her non-crutched arm. Is kind of traipsing along the place. Eventually finds this person. Animal folk are just a thing in these kind of games and don't get remarked upon. There's just this cat-like person. Their face is kind of half covered in bandages. They have a long hood up. They have a broad smile and sort of unflinching, unblinking eyes. I just need to leave this somewhere appropriate and go home. Please tell me you have seen either someone who looks like me or something that looks like this. And I think the cat's smile grows sort of broader, beyond the extent of their cheekbones, and they traipse off. And Awful pads after them. It is along a few of these broad, empty thoroughfares. The trees are all stark and leafless. If anything, it looks, it has gone from cool greys into blues. It is cold. Awful pulls her cloak up around her. I think she follows this way and that, almost loses track of him a few times. before stepping forward into a sort of low gallery. Little squat little windows, which are kind of the only entrance, and small portraits. And the one end of the room, there is a little square picture of what she recognizes as Maya, which makes sense to her. But then there are 20, 30 paintings, all of which are just of her. Older or younger, battered or less battered, all with the same sword clasped around her wrist. And the cat sort of offers a hand as if for payment, as the as a reward for showing her this. She doesn't remember being here before, but evidently someone was. I think her lips open, her lips close, and I think she swings the sword before really thinking about it. And I think she achieves her goal with frightening prowess. I think it is eyes wide, breathing heavy, looking up at the sword. It's splattered black. And I think she just starts off running from the gallery. Cindy, it's your turn.
Okay.
And it's your Fool's deck. Last Fool's deck of the game, maybe.
Woohoo. Okay. Uno reverse card.
I love that.
We're starting the game all over again. No.
Yay!
Yeah, sorry, uneasy lies the head.
Uneasy lies the princess sword, more like.
Uh-huh. Oh, wait.
Someone gifts you a sword.
Well, considering what just
Okay.
happened in the last scene with Solemnity Reposed.
That's
Can-
actually what I was just thinking.
I think.
Somebody call an ambulance, but not for me.
I think. Yeah, I think Solemnity. I think she's falling through like this spiral staircase, right, Ian? Was
Yeah, but like the kind that wraps around the edge of a massive pit. Like there's a
Mhm.
huge amount of empty space in the middle.
Yeah. I think I think she's falling for a bit, but I think at some point like her falling seems to slow down and like she's kind of like swimming through the air. And I think like she swims towards like the edge of this pit. Not really knowing for sure what this was, you know? She does it, and as she does, she waits. There's like a little alcove in like the side of the stair. And you know, something in her tells her like you need to do this to her. To them. You need to do this to Fetla, you know? And I think she waits Fetla to arrive, and I think, charges at her. I think sword drawn. And I think, tries to battle her off into the spits. To duel her. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's much of a duel. I can't use my arm with my sword.
Yeah. And I think, Solimity's past has prepared her for this. She has had a lot of sword fighting classes and stuff,
Yeah.
So I'm gonna flip 2 coins here. Heads and tails. I think she succeeds in it, you know? Like,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think, she manages to, like, basically, like, fight, to fight Fetla and, like, you know, yeah, I think she manages to, like, charge you off, like, the side, but I think at the last moment, like, Fetla, like, manages to, like, grab hold of, like, her garb, of her, like, of her gown, of, like, Solimity's gown,
Mm-hmm.
and I think, Solemnity falls together with her for a bit, but I do think, like, lands on the stairs, as she does. Or no, you might.
Oh,
No way. Actually, maybe I kind of prefer the idea of that, like, just ending there. Like, we're just falling together now. You know.
mhm.
Or did you have another idea, Ian?
No, I love that. I'm just there's an Italo Calvino story I want to look up because of this is all.
Mhm.
Um. Anyway. Yeah. I guess I will draw my last card, which hasn't become a fool's card yet.
Listen, I'm checking. No, I think you get a regular one.
Okay. It is too bad that you already drew the tower fee, because this would kind of be the perfect time to draw the
Yeah,
tower.
that's a good point.
The moon. Um,
Those are some weird dogs.
I think only yeah. Um, yeah, I think we are falling. I think the way that we ended up falling, we ended up separated a bit.
Mhm.
Um, there and like just out of arm's reach of each other. So we are like, and we are falling in parallel, right with each other, but we could look at each other or speak to each other, but we couldn't, uh, but we can't physically interact anymore, just with the way we went over. Um, and think I think this goes on like this. It feels like hours. Who knows if it actually is? Um, and I don't and I think finally from below us there is the sound of like not exactly rushing water but flowing water, um but flowing water through objects like that you would hear at a section of white water or something like that. And I just look at you and I say, it won't let me die. I guess you'll find out about you.
Yeah, I think Solemnity doesn't respond.
Fair.
I think just, like, stares at you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I guess it's time for swords.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's time for swords. Is this
think
where the
I'd-
sword belongs? If so, decide. The princess makes a sacrifice. What is it to break the curse? Or the sword promises her something and she keeps it.
I will draw a card to, I guess, determine what this place will look like.
Yeah, sure.
This is the Nine of Cups. So it is a place with overgrown gardens, deep water, creeping vines, a supernatural animal, strange dreams, lost souls, or your shadow. I think this place here is a large beast of some sort. And we don't see the fight that ensued, but we do see the aftermath of this large beast as the sword goes plunging into the heart of it. And as it is done, I can feel in myself that this is the place where the blade belonged, where it has always been, where it came from, where it will return. And as I do so, I take a knife from my belt and carefully carve my name into it, so that I will know when I see it that I will have done it, done what I had come here for. And I do that, and I stand next to the warm remains of the beast that I have slain, and I wait. And I wait for something to happen, because something must happen here. But it does not. I can feel the warm breeze, the what must be a false sun on my back as I stand there. And I know that there is nothing that is going to undo the chain connecting me to the blade where it must remain. And so I know I have to take action here. And so, Meyer, we don't see this happen, but we see the blood on the blade from when Meyer cuts themselves above where the shackle is on their wrist. On its hand is cut off, and we see the blood run down the blade and mingle with the blood of the beast it has slain. And I think we'll wait for the aftermath table to see what happens then. But that's what we see of Meyer for now.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Every fucking time.
It's so tempting.
It's so tempting. I'm a big fan of my Fool's deck. Genuinely, for a while, this was going to be a physical deck of cards, and I may still do that. I think this is supposed to be the Eight of Wands.
Yeah.
Yep.
Looks like one.
Dark halls, groaning wood, torchlight, yawning pits, glowing sigils, eyes in the dark, a locked door, teeth, fire. Awful finds a room with 20, 30 pits of just like skeletons that look almost exactly like her own. Similar dress, same hair. Just pits. Some of them still have the handcuff attached. And I think it is just her, up to her wrist is already black from where she'd slain the cat person. And I think her sword finally speaks and says, I can be the one to ensure you live. And she leaves with the sword. Cindy?
Yeah.
Are we keeping the cards up here for now? I quite like that.
So I do have an idea for a place for which I don't need to draw a card.
Interesting. Say more.
So I think I think what Solemnity realized as she was staring at Fetla is that the place that the sword belongs is Fetla's back.
Excellent.
I think, yeah, it just clicks for Solemnity that that is what she must do. I don't know. It's the sword is telling her, but it's also like, the words that Fatma just said of like, the sword won't let you die. Won't let me die, And like, I think Solemnity is taking that as an invitation that she might, that they might want that, And
Yeah,
like,
yep.
I don't know. It's unclear if that's a reason or an excuse for Solemnity, but I think she plunges her sword into Fatma's back. And I think the sacrifice that Solemnity makes is, you know, the last remaining, like, the only person she knows where she is. She doesn't know if Awful or Myra are still alive. Doesn't even know their names, right? Awful did tell her, but she didn't realize. Um, and like, she's kind of like, murdering the only person that she knows is still around. And that's the sacrifice she's making here. But maybe she can return after this. Maybe.
We get a card draw
Okay.
for that one.
Yeah, because I think I go tumbling down into with this sword now in my back. God, which I love that it's it's sticking out with bone and flesh. Um, and I go tumbling down into I want to make sure we're getting things. I think this is tumbling down into the sewer level for the Dark Souls game, but we'll see where I end up from that. Ooh, also wands, the 5 of wands. Um, I think I find myself. I think I find myself climbing out of a pit. I almost imagine at this point that Vetla looks a bit like um, the girl from The Ring at this point, like utterly bedraggled, hair down, gown in ruins, crawling out of a pit. But with this one, the sling is gone. I think they are dragging their right arm that has the sword like growing out of it at this point almost. They have this other fleshy sword stabbed, run through them, through their back, and are like just we see them we see them dragging themselves out of this pit into think into yeah into a forest of old trees creaking in the dark, and and I think yeah there's the glow of eyes and the clack of teeth, and if I just let go of the sword that I'm dragging along, it would all go away, but it promises me something, that if I keep it, I will live and I will have my chance for revenge. So I do not give up the sword.
Okay. So the aftermath, I figure we'll give this a try and see how it feels. What I need you to do is, if you take the number of chips you have as dice of a different color, roll your dice separately, right? So I've got 2 black chits and 1 white chit. I'm going to roll 2 dice and say those are my blacks, roll 1 dice and say those are my whites, and then minus the big number from the small number and see what happens. Okay?
It's good.
Cool.
I wonder if you can just do roll 2d6 minus 1d6. Is that possible?
I think it might be.
No idea.
Yeah.
Well, mine didn't because I put a space in between the exclamation mark and roll because I'm an idiot. But
That's a 2.
I'm a 5, 11 minus 6.
I am a 6, 10 minus 4.
I'm a 5, 6 minus 1.
Okay, so who is black and who is white? In fact, I'm just gonna put the black and the white prompts in the chat, and if you want to take these and run with them, great. I don't think any of these are super positive. I'll be honest with you. I don't think many of these are super positive.
Yeah, I would be shocked if this game, given what this game was, if Princess got a very happy, positive ending.
Yeah, the highest one is labeled fan fucking tastic, and I don't think anyone's getting that.
Uh-huh. God.
Woof.
Are we holding the order, or are we gonna snake draft this, go in reverse order, so we end on Meyer, who has the worst?
That sounds charming to me. Fuck it. So what you need to do is describe the ending, and then you've got 3 dice, or you should have. So you can essentially say 3 sentences, which are this is your character doing X, Y, or Z. You know.
Okay, then I guess if we're going in reverse, I'm starting. Unless someone had a 6, is that do we want to just go from best? I whatever.
No, I quite like back to start. That sounds fun to me.
Um, then this is
What did you roll? What's your actual like aftermath?
5. So I'm rough, I believe. Black 5, rough. You are getting whipped like a rented mule for starters, and you will remember this episode for all your diminished days. The lesson you learn will be profound, lingering, and painful. Um, so this is Vetla dragging themselves through this forest, living off of only like capturing rodents and bugs to eat and sustain themselves. Um, becoming we've talked about characters looking feral. This is a character becoming feral here. Uh, they are becoming a creature of this place. Um, they are bent their only focus being the memory of the idea of revenge. Do have this one positive one, which I think um, is the that eventually another princess comes through. I don't think it's solemnity, but Vetla is able to convince themselves that it is. And in killing her, there is, for a brief moment, a feeling of satisfaction and relief, and I think a hope that that will be the end of it. That they have done this thing, and then that will release them. But it is not. This is Vetla drawn out into something without even their one motivation anymore, becoming an automaton like we saw in the dance hall. They follow the path, they stalk their grounds. They can be found, they repeat their cycle over and over again. And every so often they claim a new sword stabbed through them one way or the other.
Cindy?
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I think go back to Solemnity after she just like
What was your aftermath score?
it's 5 white, which is miserable. Um, which means you are humiliated in a big public way, and whatever reputation you once had is now in dirty pieces all around you. You'll never think of these days without a shudder for at your own aggressive stupidity. And what we see is like Solemnity, after she put the sword in Vetla's back, still falling, and I think she falls down onto a tiled floor. And I think, kind of like the Mr. Bean intro looking, And as the camera zooms out, you see that this is in fact like the banquet hall of like Solimity's family of her castle that she used to live in. And all around her are the royal people looking at her, gasping at her. Um, and I think as she's lying there, like getting up again, I think there's some gasps from the audience. People appalled at her state. Um, and I think out of the crowd comes a small, comes a small man, gnarled face, and you know, I think starts telling a story. It's the story of Solemnity, of the journey she went on, of how she betrayed her home life to do this weird quest, how she went to a campfire with Meyer and didn't appreciate at all, was kind of a bitch, was kind of mean and distant. How she abandoned Awful in the labyrinth as a minotaur was attacking her. And finally, how she put her sword into Fatma's back. And Calamity is just lying there, just lying on the floor, listening on in horror as what's being described here, in shame of what she did, and that this story is in fact true, even though it's not necessarily told in a flattering manner. It's still true what they're saying about her. And I think he's soon after thrown in a jail, and I think that's where we see her lost.
Awful rolled a blank 6. Pathetic. You'll suffer, oh dear God, will you suffer, and everyone will know of your malfeasance, your stupidity, your lack of common sense and decency. You're probably going to be locked up too. Which I think is this is just Awful walking like a Terminator, barefooted, still partially dripping wet from something or another, stalking up the same open thoroughfare as where she started the game, walking down, being stalked by a merchant, and she pushes out into the garden party that she originally left. And the music falters because the party continued without her. And she looks at minor nobles, she looks at the musicians which have only just stopped playing. She is bedraggled. She is soaked in blood in places. She is walking with a limp, with a crutch under one arm. And I think it is just. This is awful sitting down on like a prepared chair at a distance. This is awful, like the walls kind of closing in around her, the conversation around her fading out. And this is awful, just sat there staring sort of off camera with a kind of set expression, and just the sound, like the ambient sound of the corridors and of the thoroughfares and of the ruins, no matter how far back she is. And of course, the sword is still handcuffed to her hand.
All right. I'll go next, I suppose, if you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I got a white 2, merciless. You might not be dead on the outside, but you sure as hell are dead on the inside. The emotional or mental wounds you have suffered will never heal. The future is a brick wall. I think we see here, we see Meyer, whose arm is bandaged somehow. And Meyer walks out of an entryway into that large landscape we saw earlier around the clock tower, and Meyer closes its eyes and feels the sun and the grass beneath its feet. And we see Meyer go through different places, go through some ruined towns, talks to people, enjoys sitting out and eating some bread by a lake. But we can see that Meyer, throughout all this, despite no longer being a princess, despite not having the sword, cannot believe any of this is real and that it has escaped. It feels fake whenever it goes to sleep. It imagines itself wielding the sword. It misses the sword. At least when the sword was there, it could call upon it and gain some sort of leverage. Here, there is nothing but it and the world. And it does not know what it wants next. How it will continue on without a clear goal in its hand. And that's mine.
And this was fun. Like, good
Yeah.
job, everyone involved. What a merry little game. I love our little freaky princesses. Yeah, what a wonderful time. This has been Princess with a Cursed Sword, played 4 times, overlapping, by, well, hacked from an original game by Anna Anthropy. You can find it on itch.io, Google Princess with a Cursed Sword, and you'll find it, I'm sure. Including elements of Fiasco by Jason Morningstar and Bully Pulpit Press. We've got Uneasy with Lies the Head coming along in 10 minutes or what have you by Adam Bell. I'm sure that'll be a very merry GM-less time. Looks like a very interesting little game. Thank you so much for your donations. Thank you so much for your contributions to my Fool's Deck. And thank you so much, my fellow princesses, for spending this time.
Thank you for putting this together, Fee.
Yeah, don't worry about it. I gotta do something weird and better, otherwise it's not a Roll Plus Bond stream. I know how this shit works. I am Fee T Hazard. You can find me at Philo Hazard. If you like games, then don't forget to buy the itch.io bundle. Some of my games are in there. If you like Beam Saber, there's some Beam Saber shit in there. If you like Batman dying and being a woman, then I have great news. There's a game about that in there as well. Yeah, anyone else got anything else they want to plug while we're here?
Also, if you want to watch another game with me, Ian, and Neon in it, tomorrow...
Almost exactly 12 hours.
Almost exactly 12
my
hours
God.
from now, we'll be playing a way more... another very
Yep.
depressing game in Desperation. Yay!
Yay!
Oh, thank God, I'm not in that one. Right,
Yeah,
okay,
if,
cool.
if you were watching this and like Fee is just too powerful and intimidating and you're enjoying it but maybe need need to see us three. Well, and other people are playing that too, but
Yeah. Also, if you want to find another game with hacked fiasco elements in them, play Meet Your End over at cindy.itch.io.
There we go.
There we go.
Hey, I think we're gonna hit the trail, cowpokes. It's not been a Western game up until this point, but we're all riding off into the sunset. I'm doffing my hat to you. I'm putting back on my poncho, putting 6 separate revolvers into my belt, and we're heading on out. Yeehaw!
Yeehaw.
Yeah, I guess.